What is up everyone, welcome back to a brand new video on Lex Alexas. Today it is our championship review of match day 44. What happened this weekend? Well, we saw Barnsley and Peterborough both get relegated, so commiserations to both of these clubs. We've also seen Huddersfield secure their place in the top 6 this weekend, and we still got a lot of things still to be decided. Of course, Preston play Blackburn tonight, which I will be doing a watch along for, so guys, make sure you do check out my reaction to that stream and that game. And for the Leicester Football Prediction League, after this game I'll start calculating the latest standings, and there has been some notable changes in the table as well, so keep your eyes out for those changes. But if you guys like what you see, please give the video a like. It just tremendously help. Please do hit the subscribe button, it does really help the growth of this channel, and most importantly, please share this channel to as many people as you can. All of that really helps. But without any further ado, let's start talking about what happened in this weekend's games. So we start off the game that relegated Barnsley as Huddersfield beat Barnsley by 2-1. And pretty unsurprisingly, it has resulted in ASPAGHI and his assistant Farah Silva to leave Barnsley by mutual consent. And unfortunately, what I think was the biggest issue of this game, I watched it live, I did a whole watch along on it, and I kept going on that Barnsley really lacked urgency. They didn't really get a foothold in this game. Huddersfield stayed in control and were very comfortable. They also got a very early goal, which definitely settled their nerves, but it definitely put Barnsley under pressure. Jordan Rhodes with the goal, a bit controversial because he could have been seen in an offside position, but I think now looking at the replay, I think there was a touch on Mads Andersen, and therefore it was correct to give the goal to Rhodes. But it was a very controversial decision because the referee initially disallowed it actually. And it's actually the first time Rhodes has scored back-to-back goals since 2018, which is an incredible stat for the man there. But what's disappointing is that Barnsley really did not look any better when falling behind. If anything, they looked worse. They really didn't have any confidence going forward. Huddersfield were very comfortable and their shape was spot on for this game. Harry Toffolo increased the lead, who for me I think was the best player on the pitch personally. A brilliant cross by Sinani, and then Toffolo to run across, slide the ball into the net to make it 2-0. And Barnsley still really did not look threatening at all until ASPAGHI brought on a triple substitution. As soon as the lights of Keena went on the pitch, they did look a little bit better. Styles, especially when he came on, actually really dictated the play, and I was very surprised that he wasn't starting initially. Styles was the only one really looking like that he can run at the defence, and he had something about him. He scored the goal just outside the box for Barnsley to make it a consolation, to make it 2-1, but ultimately it wasn't enough. Barnsley collapsed to the floor and they were relegated. They'll be looking for a new manager, and depending who they get, maybe that'll give me the confidence if they can survive. As with Huddersfield, brilliant win for them. I mean, the headlines are going to be on Barnsley going down, but they've secured a top 6 place. Unbelievable season for Huddersfield Town. I've got to say, Corberan's a little bit unlucky not to get the Manager of the Season award according to the EFL. What he's done to that Huddersfield side in a short turnaround compared to where they were last year is incredible. And then talking about the club that did have their manager win Manager of the Season award, Nathan Jones, as he managed to mastermind a 1-1 draw against Blackpool. Now I think Luton will feel very aggrieved that they did not get a full 3 points in this game. They did everything right at the start. Elijah Adebayo, 120 seconds in, took the lead for Luton Town. A brilliant run, I gotta say, in the right hand side. I think getting past James Husband there, and I think his shot deflected in by Richard Keogh actually, but it was on target, so it is going to be his goal. And Luton still looked very comfortable, I really gotta say. Blackpool, I gotta say, especially in the second half, I think actually had the right approach about it, and they got their moment with a blistering run by CJ Hamilton, and then it was Potts who couldn't deal with it. He fouled CJ Hamilton, causing a penalty. I do think that was a penalty, and Gary Medine steps up, scores all his penalties this season, scores this one too to make it 1-1. But the controversy happened after that moment, because I think both teams could have been argued that they were both denied stonewall penalties each, and the most controversial moment is that Luton were denied a late winner. I think it was Adebayo who was on the right hand side, and apparently because of the foul on Keogh in the build up to that goal that he squared the ball to Musquay, the goal was disallowed, and personally I did not think it was a foul whatsoever. So I think Luton were quite disappointed with that. But I do think they're within only 1 or maybe even 2 points of securing top 6. They've now just got to be patient and hope with the games that a lot of the teams have in hand, especially Middlesbrough, that they do not pick up maximum points. Because it's only Middlesbrough and Millwall who I can potentially see overtake Luton, you know, if Luton don't pick up any single points in their last 2 games of the season. As with Blackpool, not got much to play for, but I've got to say, in their last 3 games, they've got the bottom 3 of the championship, and if they can take 9 points out of this game, they can definitely potentially push for a top half finish. And then a bonkers game at St Andrews. It ended Birmingham 2, Millwall 2. I gotta say, I did not expect this to be a 4-goal thriller, but both teams really turned up and really wanted to give a game. Now the first half wasn't that great, I really gotta say, it wasn't great at all, but I do think it was Birmingham that went the closest. If I'm right in saying, I think Bacuna hit the woodwork in the first half and was unlucky not to score. But Bacuna does get his chance within 2 minutes in the second half. A real defensive mix-up between Hutchinson and Cooper there. And then the rebound of that, you know, it's found by Ono Hernandez. He supplies it to Bacuna and bang, he scores to make it 1-0. But disappointingly, only 20 minutes later, Mill do get an equaliser. Malone does very, very well on the left-hand side. A brilliant cross to find McNamara, header, and then Oliver Burke completely unmarked. So poor defending on Birmingham's part. He shoots it, and Etheridge can't keep it out to make it 1-1. Now, for 2 penalty decisions that really spoke volumes of this game. Lyle Taylor scored the first penalty, and he was fouled in the original penalty by Saville. I think it was a penalty. They weren't as clear cut as Luton and Blackpool's one, but I do think it was a penalty. Lyle Taylor with his classic penalty technique scores to make it 2-1. But then Millwall looking like that their hopes of top 6 are over. In the 96th minute, they have a penalty of their own, and Benica Phobe steps up in the 98th minute and scores that to make it 2-2. Unbelievable scenes, really. That one goal really actually kept Millwall in the competition of potentially being in the top 6. They are currently 7th place right now. I still think they're a little bit of a disadvantage getting into the top 6, but they still have a very slight chance of getting in, and Sheffield United, you know, continuously drop points. As with Birmingham, disappointing for them. I definitely think they deserve the win out of that, unfortunately, and it just turns out to be more pressure on Lee Bowyer, where even with a great performance, he's still going to have pressure. And I've got to say, the crowds in that game, you know, they weren't really at a great attitude at all. You know, there was a lot of fights breaking out in that game, but a brilliant performance by the 2 teams on the pitch. And then the clash of the Titans between Bournemouth and Fulham ended as a 1-1 draw. But how Bournemouth got anything out of this, I really am still, you know, flustered about seeing all the highlights there. If you look at the stats, only 2 shots on target from both teams. It was not a great game to watch. Both teams were very cagey and nervous, I've got to say. I think Fulham, you know, they got their goal from Mitrovic and it was a brilliant header, but I thought it was an incredible save by Travers, but then I only just remembered the goal came in from a goal decision system and it was very, very close. I've seen some very tough goal decision goals, but this was very, very tight, and Travers will be very disappointed that, you know, they thought it was a goal, because I think he did really, really well to initially make the save from Mitrovic's shot in the end. And by the way, congrats to Mitrovic for getting the player of the championship season as well. And in fact, the 2 highest top goal scorers in this season scored for each team in this game here. So Mitrovic, of course, scoring the first one. Now, Bournemouth, the thing is with them, they were very, very defensively shrewd. When they had the ball, they weren't really necessarily pressing going forward. I think they were playing for the point originally. And when they fell behind, that's when Bournemouth started getting a more flurry of chances. Carwell had a really big chance. He was completely unmarked and blazed the ball away from the target of the goal. And I thought it was not going to be Bournemouth's day. But Harry Wilson does almost like a karate kick on Tommy Smith, the former Derby man, giving Nottingham Forest no favours at all as he's conceded a penalty for Bournemouth in the 98th minute. Dominic Solanke steps up. He makes no mistake and he makes it 1-1. This is 1 point closer to the promotion, I guess, for Bournemouth, but you've got to say, Forest and especially Huddersfield are closing the gap on them. They've got a lot of pressure. They've got 2 tough games in midweek, away to Swansea and at home to Forest. And those 2 games could really define their season. If they don't get promoted from this position here, then things are going to be under a lot of pressure for Bournemouth especially. As with Fulham, I mean, they've got 99 goals. I think they could definitely break the goal scoring record, but in terms of points, they've not got much to play for at all, haven't they? They'll just be partying, thinking like that they can clinch the title very, very soon. They could have won the title had they won this game, but they haven't yet. They can definitely win it in their next game though, so ultimately things are going very well for Fulham. Next, between Derby and Bristol City, it ends as a 3-1 away victory to Bristol City, and this was like the story of defensive mistakes, because both of Andre Weimann and then Antoine Semenyo's goals came from defensive mix-ups. Weimann scored from a defensive slip, I think, by Curtis Davies. It was a brilliant play actually in the build-up to it, but had he not slipped over, then it could have got intercepted and the chance would have gone. Then for Semenyo's second, Stearman just holds on to the ball too long and gets absolutely, tackled by Semenyo, runs on his own and makes it 2-0 to Bristol City. And what I was fearing, especially when I was predicting Derby for a win, is that Wayne Rooney was going to go over one or two ways. He was either going to make his side play with prime, or he was going to rotate and he was going to play some youth players. And he did the latter. He played some youth players. Szybalski has his first full league debut in Derby, and I thought he looked okay. Definitely, I felt should have scored one of the opportunities where Bristol City didn't defend one of his chances very, very well. And Eloy as well, he has been playing a little bit, but he definitely had a full appearance this time, and I think he did really well because he got the assist of Derby's goal at least. Cross came in, full side with the header, 2-1 it was, and disappointing defending for Bristol City. And I got to say, Derby didn't play all that well, I got to say, because I even think with Bristol City, I think they're barely out of second gear, I got to say. And with the 3 hitting close scores from a free kick whipped in, poor defending, and that free header makes it 3-1 Bristol City. I've got to say, Bristol City, for me, still have got some work to do. They don't really look like a very organised team, and I don't even really think they were even trying. They were barely out of second gear, but they still got the win, and actually their form's a little bit okay at the moment, and I think the thing they've really got to work on for next season is really just trying to get a well-organised squad together at the very minimum. As with Derby, of course, their relegation was confirmed in Easter Monday with their defeat against QPR. I think a lot of thoughts of Derby, they're just thinking about next season. They just want to write this season off now and just see if they can bounce back in their first League One campaign since 1986. Hull and Reading ended as a 3-0 home victory to Hull. I've got to say, this result doesn't even matter for Reading now, because Peterborough failed to beat Nottingham Forest. They do not have to worry about relegation anymore. And I do think the news at the Peterborough game did distract Reading. Now, the first goal came from King Lewis Potter, but it was poor by Deli Bashiru. He gets tackled by George Honeyman, and George Honeyman puts a great ball to King Lewis Potter, and he does the rest to make it 1-0. But the second goal, I mean, it was Honeyman again. Free kick came in. They don't really defend the free kick very, very well. It goes to a bit of a scramble. Jones for a tap in to make it 2-0. Whilst Reading did have a small number of chances, they didn't really do anything that was really going to test Nathan Baxter in goal. King Lewis Potter ended off the scoring, making it 3-0. I mean, it was a great counter-attacking goal by King Lewis Potter to make it 3-0 in the end. And I got to say, I think Hull would be promising a lot for next year. I think with the new ownership, new manager, I think they will promise a lot, and they definitely will try and get a much better attack in this championship season for next year. As with Reading, I think still things are not quite, as rosy as they seem as in Reading at the moment. They definitely have got a lot of work to do in the summer, but they'll be feeling ecstatic that they can play championship football again at least. Then to the game that confirmed Peterborough's relegation, a 1-0 defeat to Nottingham Forest. Sam Sarge with the only goal in the game, and honestly really could have been more. And I think it was Josh Knight that initially really gave the ball away. It was well tackled by Zinkernagel, gave the ball to Brennan Johnson, the young player of the season, so congratulations to Brennan Johnson there. He whips a ball in, and Sam Sarge with the header to make it 1-0 to Forest. And really, it actually could have been more. Grabber missed 2 real gilt-edged chances, and it's a shame for Forest, especially with their injuries, because Grabber did come on as a sub, but he came off injured again. So it's a shame, because only Sarge is really going to be their notable striker in their last couple of games or so. Can that cost Forest trying to get promoted automatically and maybe even their playoff campaign? It depends on the recovery of both Keenan Davis and Grabban. As a Peterborough, they did have a couple of half chances, but unfortunately, they just couldn't really match Forest, in terms of taking their chances. They actually did quite well creating the amount of chances, having shots on goal, and even their possession play, wasn't so bad. I don't think Peterborough were as bad as they seemed in this game, but Forest were just deadly clinical, and the build-ups was just much more fluid and better. Peterborough unfortunately goes straight back down to League One after one season in the Championship, and I think they're lucky they got McCann back. I think he could definitely do something for this Peterborough side. Obviously, when he got relegated with Hull, he took them back in the straight end Championship for the first time, advancing, gaining promoted as champions as well. Don't know if Peterborough are going to have that same fortune, but they definitely have a good enough manager to get themselves out of it. Then what a crucial win for Sheffield United in their playoff hopes as they beat Cardiff by 1-0. And I've got to say, my prediction of 2-1 Cardiff, I feel very, very silly now, I've got to say. But it did look like it could go that way when Mark Harris ran one-on-one with West Birmingham right near the start of the game. I was going to say, if he took that chance and Cardiff took the lead, then I think Sheffield United would have had a real test of character to see if they can overturn his comeback. But Cardiff just were not focused going forward today whatsoever. And I think when they missed that chance and Sheffield United starting influencing the likes of Morgan Gibbs-White into the game, they were unstoppable. And I've got to say, Morgan Gibbs-White is such a talented player. The cross he put in to put in the goal for Ilman and Dye was exquisite. And the chances that Sheffield United had were ultimately created by his players. Where there was one brilliant chipped ball to find Sander Berge, but unfortunately it was smoothed by Phillips to still make it 1-0 to Sheffield United. Berge was unlucky to not score himself as he had a chance near the end which came off the post, but Sheffield United I think slightly deserved it. I really think Sheffield United did deserve this, and that's a crucial win as well. It puts them in 6th place right now. They've now got it out of their hands. They have caught up with all of the teams in the Championship now. They've just got to hope that Middlesbrough do not win their game in hand, because Middlesbrough can close the gap on them by 2 points, and Sheffield United have got 2 West London clubs as their final 2 games in QPR and Fulham. Now, if Sheffield United beat QPR, they've done it. I honestly think maybe 1, even 2 more points for Sheffield United, and they've done it. Now, in terms of Cardiff, mid-table position, they don't really have a lot to play for. Disappointingly, they fall down to 19th. They've also got a lot to do for next year. Stoke beat QPR by 1-0, and that definitely ends QPR's very faint chances of getting into the top 6. I've got to say, what was disappointing for QPR, they didn't have a single shot on target. 0 shots on target, which is outrageous. This QPR side needed to win to even have the faintest of chance of getting into the top 6, and they put up a performance like that. Stoke were brilliant. I mean, Michael O'Neill actually wasn't there. Obviously, he had hip surgery recently, so he couldn't actually be present. Dean Holden had to lead the charges there. But Stoke were fantastic, I've got to say. Jacob Brown has started to really get more consistency in his goal scoring. The goal came round from a corner, poor defending by QPR, and Jacob Brown, right place, right time, made it 1-0. And I've got to say, if it wasn't for Westwood putting in one of his classic Sheffield Wednesday performances in goal, then it could have been a cricket score. I'm not even joking. Stoke had so many chances, it was embarrassing. They also hit the post as well for one of their chances. Also, QPR did hit the post as well themselves, but that was really the only time they went close and really threatened. Apart from that, it was very, very poor showing for QPR. It's a disappointing season because I definitely think if they had their key players still around and they didn't have players going away to AFCON, for instance, I think they actually would have had the momentum and the consistency to be in the top 6 at least. They were 1 point off automatics with a game in hand by the new year, and they now are in a position in 10th place, which just goes to show how low they've dropped. As with Stoke, they're in the top half of the table, and I've got to say, with the games they've got, if they can actually get some good results, they can definitely have a pretty good finish to the season. This game between Swansea and Middlesbrough ended as a 1-1 draw, and I predicted 0-0, and I've got to say, the first half was a 0-0 worthy draw, but I think both managers gave both their teams a kick up the backside to make this game go to life, because I tell you this, it was a mad second half. I mean, 2 minutes in, we see Ryan McGree score an outrageous goal for Middlesbrough, and it was done by Fisher and Grimes, giving the ball away to McGree just in the edge of the box. His shot takes a wicked deflection and in off the crossbar to make it 1-0. Almost immediately, Swansea nearly fall 2-0 down when Tavernier is almost put 1-on-1 with Fisher. Fisher makes the save. Tavernier just loses the confidence and the composure. And then with that chance, Swansea counter and score. Piero making a blistering run. And Obafemi does very well, ghosting past his defender, and he scores to make it 1-1. His 10th goal this year, and he scored 11 goals this season. His 2021 form versus his 2022 form is night and day. And could you imagine where Swansea would be if they had that Michael Obafemi for the whole season? And I got to say, with terms of possession, Swansea of course dominated. What Middlesbrough tried to do is wait for them to play a loose pass and counter. They did so quite successfully, and they did hit the post near the end of the game. But although, to be fair, Swansea hit the post as well. Both teams hit the woodwork, and I got to say, I think both teams did deserve a draw. And I think the disappointing part, it wasn't a 2-2 or 3-3 draw, because it could have been any of those score lines with those games. Both teams were really at each other's throats, and it was an entertaining game to watch. Both teams have got a midweek game coming up. Swansea playing against Bournemouth and Middlesbrough playing against Cardiff. Both of those games are really going to define what might happen in the top half of the table. So it's going to be very exciting to see what would happen in this game. With Middlesbrough, I mean, it ends their duck of not scoring a goal. They actually scored a goal for the first time since April the 2nd, but still not enough. And the fact they gave a lead away that quickly is a real concern, I've got to say. As with Swansea, brilliant performance, I've really got to say. It was actually a really nice performance by Swansea, and we'll see if they can carry that on when they have to play against Bournemouth. Final game ended West Brom 0, Coventry 0, and wow, I mean, this game didn't have the best of quality in terms of its chances, but the drama it had at the end, I mean, everyone's talking about the Carlin Grant penalty miss, but let's just first just talk about the chances. I've got to say, I think Coventry actually had more openings and threaded more proper chances than what West Brom did. As with Coventry, they just, once again, when you get closed down a little bit, they have poor decision making going forward, and I noticed that a little bit, a bit of erraticness, when they go forward there. Now, the penalty decision itself, I'm not sure if it was a pen. I gotta say, I wasn't too sure. One angle looks like there's contact, another one looks like that the player just kind of flailed to the floor. So it's one of those ones again. But Carlin Grant steps up. Didn't look like a very confident step up, I've got to say. It was a little bit of a stuttering run. And Ben Wilson, what a man. He saved Coventry a point, and it was literally the last kick of the game. Controversial circumstances, and that is how it ended 0-0 in this game. West Brom fall down to 13th following this, and Coventry in 11th. So both in around the mid-table position. Coventry, fantastic to be in this position, but West Brom, things are not looking fantastic for them, especially for the fact that Steve Bruce does want to try and manage next year. The fans have got to go behind him. He has got teams out of the Championship before in Hull and Aston Villa. They've got to try and back him. They won't have any patience if things start off slow for next season. So next season is going to be a crucial season for West Brom. So guys, that wraps it up for my review video today. This is what the Championship table is looking like before Preston play against Blackpool. Fulham first, Bournemouth second, of course, and in top six you've got Huddersfield, Forest, Luton, and then Sheffield United, Millwall, and Middlesbrough just outside. I think from Blackburn downwards, none of these teams will get into the top six. And then for the bottom three, we have got Peterborough, Derby, and Barnsley. That bottom three confirmed now. So guys, to wrap up this video today, I will be predicting the 4 games that are taking place in midweek. Also guys, make sure you comment your predictions in the comments down below. Let's do this. So start off with Barnsley going up against Blackpool. I gotta say, I think Blackpool will edge a win in this one. I don't think Barnsley at the moment are really going to be in great spirits. I mean, maybe a manager, leaving could bring a bounce, but personally I think they're going to be deflated. I think it's going to be a 2-0 away victory to Blackpool. Fulham and Forest, I'm saying 1-1. I really can't separate the two. Fulham will obviously go for it. I think Forest have definitely got much more motivations, and that could definitely edge them. But for some reason, I think if Fulham score first, then I have the feeling that Forest won't win. But if Forest score first, I think they'll win. And I'm saying Fulham will score first, so therefore, I think it's going to be a 1-1 draw. Then Swansea, Bournemouth. For some strange reason, I've got a lot more confidence in Swansea as I do with Bournemouth. I'm still not too convinced with Bournemouth still. So I'm going to go for a 2-1 victory to Swansea, and that will really spice things up in the top part of the table. And finally, Middlesbrough, Cardiff. Now, this was tough as well. I think Cardiff are now on the beach. They're not really playing to the best of their quality. This is make do or die for Middlesbrough. They have to win this game. And will they be able to deal with the pressure? And that's the biggest question. And I think it's going to be a very cagey game, I would think. But I am going to edge Middlesbrough for a 2-1-er. And I think that would definitely bring their playoff chances alive again, and they will then have to do the work themselves and hope teams above them start dropping games in their final 2 matches of the season. So guys, these are my predictions and this video is now complete. So guys, if you enjoyed it, please give the video a like. It does tremendously help the channel. Please do hit the subscribe button. It does really help the growth of this channel. Make sure you watch my watch along of Preston and Blackburn tonight, and please share this channel to as many people as you can. All of that really helps. But that will wrap it up. Thank you guys so much for watching. You guys are legendary if you saw the end of this video. As always, I'll see you guys soon. Take care, everyone.